I Made a Deal with an Old Man in a Food Court Bathroom by MPZ 1968. We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll, Black Sabbath, 1975. No rock album in the history of rock albums has had more of an effect on my life than that one. Not necessarily for the music, nor the lyrics contained within, but the title. How, you ask? Well, it may take a while. I'm a big fan on details. Please bear with me. Hope I don't bore you too much. Now, first off, let me introduce myself. My name is Mikey Z. That's not my real name, though. No one really cares what my real name is. Anyway, I'm the lead guitar... I was the lead guitarist for the rock group Blackened Image. Maybe you've heard of us? No? Okay, then. Moving on. I say was, because there's no more Blackened Image. They're all dead. Except me. Now, in order to answer your question, I have to go back in time. Back to a time of youth. A time of innocence. A time of starry eyes and wild dreams. And the time I fucked up. The year was 1986. I was a senior in high school. Hair metal ruled the airwaves, and the Reaganomics were in full effect. Wait! Gotta go back even further. Now, I've always been into music. Well, as far back as I can remember, that is. I still remember sitting on the living room floor, about 7, maybe 8 years old, playing with my Legos, listening to artists such as Roy Orbison, Statler Brothers, and Marty Robbins, just to name a few, on a record player, while my parents relaxed on the couch. Well, what's a record player, you ask? You know that thing people listen to music on before cassette tapes? What's a cassette tape? Never mind. I don't have time to explain it. I always liked the way that the drums and bass and the guitars all work together in a rhythm. I didn't understand a lot of the lyrics back then, being so young and all. I mean, I understood what they were saying, but not necessarily what they meant until I got older. I did notice that most of the songs seemed to rhyme, and I thought to myself, hey, I can do that. Cat, hat, fish, dish. This is easy. I was hooked. I started making up little rhymes and singing them around the house, and it drove my parents crazy. But from that point on, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. Write songs. Now, as I grew older, my taste in music began to expand. I listened to everything. If I liked it, I listened to it. Everything from 50s doo-wop to 60s psychedelics, 70s disco to 80s pop, old country to new country, and everything in between. That was until I discovered heavy metal. That stuff was loud, fast, and in your face, full of attitude and emotion. It was perfect for an awkward teenager like me. It was a hot summer day in 1983. I was about to turn 15. My parents had planned a trip to go visit an old family friend and his family. I played baseball with his son, Ricky, in the late 70s. We were on the same team. But you don't really care about that. By this time, I'd learned how to actually write lyrics for a song. I'd written a few, actually. I wrote a lot. I kept them in several black and white composition books and carried one with me wherever I went. We arrived at Ricky's parents' house. My parents said their hellos to his parents, while I went to hang out with Ricky in his bedroom. After talking for a while, he went to his closet and pulled out his guitar, a snake-skinned 6-string Peavey. I didn't even know he played guitar. He plugged it into his amp and belted out the opening riff to Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. I didn't know what that was at the time, and he told me after he finished. I was completely blown away. I'd never heard anything like that before. He told me it was a new style of music called heavy metal. That's awesome, I said. Then I told him that I write song lyrics. And he said, cool. And I showed him the ones in my book. He read through them, found one he liked, The Blackest Dark of Dawn, and we sat there all afternoon arranging that song. I sang. I tried to sing the lyrics. Sounded like a dying cat. And he put it to music on a guitar. Okay, I thought to myself. That's it. I'm gonna learn how to play guitar too. So, on my way home, I asked my dad for a guitar for my 15th birthday and the Ozzy Osbourne album, Blizzard of Oz. By now, records had become obsolete, and music was only available in cassette tapes. Anyway, I got them both. My parents have always been cool like that. I played that album over and over again. It was like a drug. I became a full-fledged metalhead and started listening to and buying most any album under the label heavy metal or hard rock. Kiss, Motley Crue, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Wasp, Twisted Sister, everything. I soon discovered that Ozzy Osbourne once sang in a band called Black Sabbath, so I bought all their stuff too. They had a totally different sound, but it still rocked. My tape collection was enormous. I still remember the day that I found the album that changed my life forever. It was in a markdown bin at Walmart. We sold our souls for rock and roll. It's a compilation album, full of songs I already had on the original albums, but I liked the title, so I bought it. I liked it so much that I wrote those words in black Sharpie on the back of one of my jean jackets and wore it everywhere I went. Now, as for the guitar, well, come to find out, I have very poor hand-eye coordination. I could play the notes, but I couldn't make them sound like music. It was very frustrating. I gave up trying after a while. I just tinkered with the guitar every now and then, focused more on my writing. Now, fast forward to that day, in 1986. I just turned 18. It started out as a normal Saturday. I woke up, got dressed in my usual attire, torn jeans, heavy metal t-shirt. I believe it was a Suicidal Tendencies t-shirt, and that old jean jacket that I mentioned earlier. I walked to the kitchen, poured a cup of coffee, drank it, then poured another one, and sat at the dining room table, talking to my mom. Dad's already left for work. We talked for a while. I finished my coffee. Then, I decided to head over to the mall and pick up the latest Metallica album. I arrived at the mall and headed straight for FYE, the mall's only music store. Now, after 2 cups of coffee, I suddenly got the urge to pee. Anyone who drinks coffee knows what I'm talking about. I turned left and headed to the food court, as that was where the bathrooms were located. I made it in the nick of time. I walked in the bathroom, and the lights flickered once or twice. I thought nothing of it, then proceeded inside. It was completely empty and smelled like bleach. So, there I was, at the urinal, in my attire, doing my business, when suddenly, from behind me, I heard a cold, raspy voice say, "Would you?" This struck me as odd, because I didn't hear anyone come in. I finished my business, zipped up my pants, and turned around. I said in one cocky tone, "Would I what?" Shaken from what I saw, I stood there, frozen in place, face to face with the oddest-looking old man that I'd ever seen. He was tall and skinny. He had big, bulging dark eyes, sunken cheekbones, with dry, chapped lips. He was as pale as a ghost. His hands were all wrinkled up, with age spots covering about 80% of them. He looked like death warmed over. He wore an all-white 3-piece suit, complete with a hat on top, snakeskin shoes, just like Ricky's guitar. He stood with a cane, with what appeared to be a goat's head on top of it. In retrospect, I should have known. I was young and stupid back then. He opened his mouth to speak, pieces of dry skin falling from his lips, as he said, "Sell your soul for rock and roll? Would you?" Now, me, being the young, cocky dumbass that I was, screamed out, "Hell yeah, old man! Rock and roll!" That's where I fucked up. The old man then smiled. I nearly shit myself when I saw his teeth. They weren't teeth at all. They looked like sharp, pointed little razors, where his teeth should have been. Then he raised his arms up towards the ceiling, dropping his cane, brought them down swiftly, looked me straight in the eye, and he whispered one word. "Deal." That creepy smile still plastered on his face. My eyes became heavy. My body became lethargic. And then, everything went black.